It has been said of the architecture of many a modern building that it looks less like a building than like a box a building might come in. The idea of putting a whole big building in a box or wrapping one up was never meant to be taken seriously, of course. But a famous and historic building is under wraps this morning. The artist Christo and his wife Jeanne-Claude did it with a little help from assistants. They take everything seriously, or nothing seriously if you listen to some critics. Anyway, they are the ones behind such spectacles as the Surrounded Islands in Miami and the wrapped Pont Neuf in Paris. This time they are in Berlin, and so is Martha Teichner to tell you what's being kept under wraps.
Perhaps it was coincidence that Christo and Jeanne-Claude planned to wrap the Reichstag in 6 days, the time it supposedly took God to create the world.
Imagine, that is the fabric for the Reichstag. Wrapping of the Reichstag is really like building a building.
Like building a building, like trying to move a rug while you're standing on it. Like a tailor trying to make a cheap suit fit. Like giving Germany a present. Everybody will tell you what it's like.
The reason why we do these projects, Christo and Jeanne-Claude, do these projects because we want to see it.
Each day, as a little more of the Reichstag disappeared, the number of other people who wanted to see it grew. Wanted to see how light played on it, even how it looked in the rain.
Actually, make the building of the Reichstag like living object. This is something our workers were so surprised to see the motion.
So is it a work of art or a lavish conceit?
Here, this is just a big piece of cage. It's, for me, it's not a piece of art.
For me, it's a joke, but a good one.
Slowly, in 9 days, not 6, it revealed itself by concealing.
It shows that place for what it is.
In case you've forgotten, this is what the Reichstag looked like in 1995 BC, before Christo, that is. And this is what it looked like when it was built in 1894 to house Germany's parliament, which wasn't much of a parliament then. Germany was still ruled by a king, Kaiser Wilhelm II, and he considered it a nuisance.
The most dramatic moment in the history of the Reichstag was when it burned on, I think, February 28, 1933, right after Hitler came to power.
Fritz Stern teaches German history at Columbia University.
This was really the moment when Germany became, for all practical purposes, a dictatorship, and the legal sanctions, the civic rights that we all take for granted, were lifted because of the burning of the Reichstag.
No one has ever been able to prove whether Hitler was responsible for the fire, but it gave him the excuse he was looking for. He banned opposition parties, arrested thousands, and thus began the reign of terror that only ended with the fall of Berlin in 1945.
The picture of that soldier planting the hammer and sickle on the Reichstag was obviously sort of a signal that the war was over, the Allies had won.
In 1961, the Berlin Wall was constructed a few feet from the Reichstag, and the building took on the symbolism of the Cold War. On the night in 1990, when East and West Germany were officially rejoined, the Reichstag reinvented itself again. Dressed in the flare of fireworks, the complicated fusion of past and present focused on it.
In some way, fortunately, I do not have chance to do the project before 89. Because if we did the project before 89, we will remember like a footnote during the Cold War history.
It took Christo and Jeanne-Claude 24 years to talk the Germans into letting them wrap the Reichstag, as history happened around them. But they say the process is part of the art. Their endeavors take decades and cost millions of dollars of their own money. They accept no sponsorships and finance their work primarily by selling their drawings. The Christos live and work in a dilapidated 150-year-old building in New York's Soho. So what are these buckets hanging here?
For the little leaking, water leaking of the old roof, you know.
At the end of the project,
We are broke.
everybody is paid, but we are dead broke, and it'll go on until we have sold more works to pay back the bank loans plus the interest, and then we can start the next project.
Part of the debate over the $8.5 million Reichstag project was convincing the Germans it wouldn't cost them any money. But the big issue was the Reichstag itself.
I wanted to rekindle the dialogue between art and politics, which had somehow been lost.
Project historian Michael Cullen is the one who suggested wrapping the Reichstag to the Christos in the first place.
Conservative values saying the Reichstag symbolizes the darkest and most tragic moments of German history, and wrapping it up would be frivolous and not a work of art.
The Christos say it is not up to them. Only the Germans can say what the project means. But the other side of the debate has been expressed every day here.
It's like a big cheerleading thing to spur people on to keep going, to create a new Germany that's better than the past.
In 2 weeks, the Reichstag will be unwrapped. Then construction crews move in to transform it into the home of Germany's parliament once more, the symbol of democracy, unification. But for a moment in its history, it was a cross between a painter's canvas and a great vertical stage with acrobat actors. Part of the art is seeing the effect of real fabric, real rope, real weather on an idea.
One of the greatest joy of the project is also to see how gentle is the crowd. You know? The project created some kind of teasing, inviting quality of tenderness.
As a matter of pride, Christo and Jeanne-Claude like to say that the Reichstag has had its place in the history of politics and war. But only they have been able to put it in the history of art.